Hello, we're Soul Margin Fishing and Conservation Foundation, and welcome to our channel. Come join us here every Sunday for Soul Sunday, where we release new videos. Please donate to our cause and subscribe now. Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Captain Sam here, Soul Margin Fishing and Conservation Foundation. I am the founder, and I'm super excited for this webinar, man. I know we had one last week, and we're just knocking them out, right? We have another one this week, and this is an awesome subject, right? Because I've gotten this question from anglers. I've gotten this question from myself about what's going on with the climate, right? We're talking about climate change. And we have no better person to talk about this than Dr. Vanessa today, right? So if this is your first time at our webinar, welcome. We're glad to have you here. We hope you come to some more, right? Just to give you a heads up too as well, there's a chat. And if you have questions throughout the webinar, please put them in the chat. So when we get to our Q&A session, we can get those questions answered, right? So let's move forth. So Dr. Vanessa actually grew up in the Jacksonville area. She is a senior conservation program manager for the National Parks Conservation Association. She went to school at the University of Florida and got her bachelor's in biology. And then she also went to Florida International University with a PhD specialized in conservation biology, right? So get excited. We're about to answer some questions. I know I have some anglers that really want to know what's going on. And so let's get going. So let's bring in Dr. Vanessa. Come on in, Dr. Vanessa.
Hi, Sam.
Hey, Dr.
Hi,
Vanessa.
how are you?
Just excited to have you back. I mean, we met back in December, right? And it's just been an awesome relationship since then. I know you just got back in the country. You've been doing awesome discoveries, learning more things in all different countries, so you can be well-rounded and help us learn more about climate control, right? Climate change.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for that awesome introduction. As Sam said, my name is Vanessa Trujillo. I'm the Senior Conservation Program Manager for National Parks Conservation Association, and I'm part of the Suncoast region. Which includes Florida, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Louisiana. So I get to work in a bunch of awesome places. Awesome. I'm new to NPCA. I just started this past October and have been in South Florida for the last 13 years working on Everglades and working in parks, which I'll dive into a little bit more about my background. But I'm a conservation scientist by trade. And my work at NPCA focuses on advocating for improved protection for our shared national park sites. And a passion of mine is to really help mentor and empower the next generation of conservationists and environmental advocates, which I know all of you guys are. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So before we dive into the details of this talk, which is all about climate destabilization and changes to our climate, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the journey that brought me here today. It's important to remember that there's no one size fits all formula for success. Each person has their own path that's unique, and you have the freedom to pivot and chart a new course at any time. And what truly matters, I think, in my opinion, is finding fulfillment, whether you're at work or enjoying time away from work. And ideally, there's a balance, right, between both, as it is for me. So a little bit about my background. I'm a first generation to go to college. My parents are originally from Cuba and came to the United States in the late 70s. So I'm first generation to go to college. And like Sam said, I completed my Bachelor of Science in Biology at the University of Florida in Gainesville, which was a very different path, I think, than a lot of people. I first started off with medical school. That's what I wanted to be. And then I switched to pre-pharmacy. I shadowed a pharmacist. I'm like, oh, this is not for me. I even took classes in music history, photography. I worked in many different labs, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I didn't feel like I had a set path or really knew what I enjoyed. So I worked with venomous snakes. I worked with shorebirds. I worked with Arctic plants in the lab and also invasive feral hogs, just trying to get like an idea of what I liked. And I really liked field work. So that's kind of where I ended, just doing a general biology degree in Gainesville. Once I completed that, I joined the Disney College program and worked for Animal Kingdom at Disney for a semester while I studied for the GRE and figured out what I wanted to do for grad school. So then for grad school, I did my master's and PhD at Florida International University in Miami, and I specialized in ecology of the Everglades and invasive species. These are some Mayan cichlids pictured here that we collected in South Florida. I believe these were in Big Cypress Preserve. During my last semester, I interned for Zoo Miami and the Deering Estate, which are two parks in South Florida, because I wanted to make sure I had a job right when I graduated. And I was lucky enough once I graduated to get a full-time position at the Deering Estate, which is a Miami-Dade County park. It's a 450-acre preserve, and if you've never been and are in South Florida, I totally recommend taking a visit. It's right on the water. There's a lot of many different ecosystems. You're right there on the water. You have pine rocklands, hardwood hammocks. There's a historic house museum. They decorate really nice for the holidays. So it's a really, really interesting site that I worked with. And I was their conservation and research coordinator. So I oversaw all the scientific research that was happening at the estate. And then I switched over to Fruit and Spice Park and was promoted to the director of this botanical garden, also for Miami-Dade County. So you can see, like, my background was in fisheries, but I worked in a bunch of different ecosystems, and I really think my schooling prepared me for all of these different avenues, right, that I could take. Now I'm the Senior Conservation Program Manager for MPCA, and I also teach part-time. I'm an adjunct faculty for Miami-Dade College. I've been teaching now for like over 10 years, which is crazy to me. But I teach biology, and I've taught ecology for Bio 1 and Bio 2 as well. But I really enjoy mentoring, like I said earlier. So if any of you guys are interested or trying to figure out your next steps in school or, your next path in life, I'd be happy to, chat with any of you guys. Sam's going to share my information after. but just know that there's no set path, there's no right path, and that you can change at any time, whether you're, still in high school, middle school, in your 60s, 70s, there's like no like right or wrong. Whatever makes you happy, I think. And I thought you all would appreciate some fish pics. So here's some pictures from my PhD work on invasive species here or in South Florida. So we mostly used electrofishing techniques, which is what's pictured here. We worked on boat electrofishing, and these are called backpack shockers. It's essentially like a battery that you use to buzz the water, and it doesn't negatively harm the fish. It just immobilizes them for a couple of seconds. So you got to be real quick and scoop them out of the water. But as soon as you turn off the electricity, they go back to normal. So these are some invasive removals that we did with Plecostomus. We got a pacu here, a walking catfish, some other types of cichlids. These are spotted cichlids. And this is the invasive apple snail, which is a huge issue in South Florida. And as we dive more into climate change, we might see some of these species, right, moving further north because they are temperature intolerant right now. But that might change over the course of, the years as everything gets warmer. So that was a little bit about me, and I hope to continue to work with you all in the future and attend some of your upcoming events. See that you have a lot of awesome cleanups and other events that you guys are a part of. So to dive into our topic tonight, we're here to discuss about climate destabilization and advocacy and what you can do to help protect our world. Our agenda is as follows. We'll dive into a little bit about national parks. You'll learn about all the different national parks that we have here in Florida. NPCA, which is the organization that I work for, the National Park Service, which we work very closely with. We'll dive into what is climate change, how is it affecting our world, what is advocacy, and then we'll do a wrap up with questions and a bunch of resources that we'll provide to you so you can keep engaging with us. At the end of our time together, I hope that you'll come away learning many new things, specifically that you'll have gained an awareness that our national parks are your natural and cultural inheritance, and to be able to name some of our national parks here in Florida. I hope that you understand that national parks are crucial to our ecosystem, and they help anchor and help impart climate resiliency. So, helping to protect us. And lastly, I hope that you'll understand that parks can't protect themselves. They really require active stewardship and advocacy. But even if you've never been to one, or you're not sure if you've been to one, I want you to just take a moment and think about what national parks mean to you. And maybe Sam can, say something. What do you think national parks mean to you? Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay, just kidding. So just think, what national parks are. What is your favorite one that you've been to? Think about those experiences. So now let me provide you a little bit of groundwork on national parks and the organization that I work for, which is National Parks Conservation Association. On the left-hand side, here you'll see the National Park Service logo. It was established way back in 1916 by Congress. This is a government agency, and it helps to protect over 423 national park sites across the nation. So not just here in Florida, but in so many different places. Some are designated national parks, like Everglades National Park. You see it right there in the name. Some are national monuments, and others are national preserves, like Big Cypress National Preserve. These are all managed by the National Park Service, so they all fall under national park sites. And you'll see that emblem everywhere when you enter in that park. So it's up to us to preserve our parks for future generations, and this is where NPCA comes in. So this is my organization. We are a non-government agency, and we are America's voice for national parks. We're an independent nonprofit organization, and we are the citizen watchdog group. So we are environmental advocates, and we advocate for national parks and make sure that they're protected in perpetuity, so it means forever. We want to make sure that these national parks are available for future generations. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the National Park Service logo. I want you to just take a second to look at all the different things on the logo, and they help represent what the National Park Service is all about. So the buffalo, pictured down here, represents all of the fauna, all of the animals in our national parks. This tree here is a sequoia, so that represents all of the flora or the plants that are represented in our national parks. There's a mountain here in the background, so that represents the scenic vistas. The lake here in this corner represents all the water and the watersheds in our national parks. And the arrowhead on the outer portion represents the human history and the culture that our national park sites represent. And lastly, you see all these little squiggly lines. And I like to say that these are the human fingerprint that we leave on all of these fragile resources. So I hope that gives you a better representation of what the National Park Service represents. So NPCA, again, is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to protecting America's national parks. We were founded by some of the same people that helped found our national park system. NPCA works on Capitol Hill, on the ground in communities, hosting events right here in Florida, and at times we're in courtrooms trying to protect our most iconic places for present and future generations. Not only does NPCA work here in Florida, but we work across the country. There are 11 regions within NPCA, and we help to protect and enhance other important ecosystems and parks. When most people think of national parks, they typically envision like these huge, iconic Western landscapes like Yosemite or Grand Canyon. But in fact, national parks also protect an incredible array of diverse marine habitats and wildlife. There are over 88 coastal park units in the national park system that cover more than 11,000 miles of shoreline and 2.5 million acres of oceans and lake waters. You'll see some of the stunning resources pictured here, like Acadia National Park in Maine, the Virgin Islands, National Park in St. John's, Kenai Fjords, National Park in Alaska. I've been to that one, it's amazing. The Channel Islands in California, and Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in Michigan. So lots of different ecosystems represented within our national parks, and we're adding to them every single year. So just a few months ago, there were 2 new national parks added to the list. National Park Site serves as custodians for not only our natural landscapes, but also for our nation's history, embodying our shared ideals. So for instance, this is Dr. Martin Luther King's memorial in Washington, D.C., and this stands as a poignant reminder of our principles. National parks also provide a vital link for human heritage, connecting us to the individuals who inhabited this land long before our nation's inception. So they really provide this shared history that is integral to our understanding of life. This picture is of Canyon de Chelly National Monument in Arizona. And occasionally we encounter a direct connection. So in this image, a young boy touches the name of his father, a soldier who made the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam War and is immortalized at this memorial. And this picture, this boy here is NPCA's past president, Tom Kiernan, when he was a child. So this represents that direct link to our national park sites. So you've inherited your national parks from generations of advocates and park protectors before you. NPCA has more than 1.6 million members and supporters across the United States. And we really want to make sure that this legacy continues, especially considering the greatest park threat of all, which is climate change, and why you guys are all here today. At NPCA, we work together with many others to help address climate impacts by promoting science-based policies to help alleviate the climate crisis. So climate change impact manifests across many different categories, and this definitely isn't all-encompassing, but we will explore select topics from this breakdown, which include the loss of snow and ice due to our warming climate, our changing landscapes. This loss of ice causes sea levels to rise. We're seeing more extreme weather damage, and how is this affecting wildlife? But if you're interested in diving deeper into any of these other topics, I know you guys have had previous talks on invasive species, but if you're interested in diving into any of these other topics, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to discuss further or maybe set up another webinar in the near future. So those categories of impact that were just highlighted can be assessed at all of our national parks. And especially here in Florida, we're really at ground zero for climate change and sea level rise. In the center image, here you're seeing a map of southern Florida with Lake Okeechobee in the center. The largely green colored area here in the south is connected by water, which this is the Greater Everglades ecosystem, which are many different types of ecosystems that include freshwater wetlands, brackish coastal marshes, marine habitats, and the world's third largest barrier reef, which is the Florida Reef Tract. So helping to anchor the region of South Florida are 4 national park units. These are Big Cypress National Preserve out to the west. We have Everglades National Park just to the south. We have Biscayne National Park, which we'll dive into a little bit more in detail in the east. And then Dry Tortugas, which is my favorite national park, way down here in the south. To bring it a little bit more north, where we are, we have many national parks up here. We have Gulf Islands National Seashore out to the west in the Panhandle. To the south, still on the west coast by Tampa, we have DeSoto National Memorial. In Jacksonville, or just north, is the Timaquan Ecological and Historic Preserve, which also includes Fort Caroline National Memorial. In St. Augustine, which I believe many of you guys are from, is Castillo de San Marcos and Fort Matanzas. And just a little further south is Canaveral National Seashore. So we have 11 national park sites here in Florida alone, which is amazing. And I'll actually be at Fort Caroline this Saturday for World Migratory Bird Day, and I'll be leading a hike at 1 p.m. If any of you guys want to join. But they'll be programming from 10 to 2 p.m. So definitely check out the website and participate if you would like. So next, I would like for us to explore some real climate impacts at some of our national park sites here in Florida. This picture here is of Gulf Islands National Seashore. It is ultra low lying. Remember I said that Florida is really ground zero for climate change and sea level rise. And because Gulf Islands National Seashore is so low lying, it could be entirely lost to sea level rise. I'm sure all of you have heard of the greenhouse effect, but I just wanted to highlight a few key things here so that you understand how these changes to our climate are affecting the Earth. So as we burn fossil fuels, like utilizing cars and factories, we emit greenhouse gases, which include carbon dioxide, methane, and all of these gases that help produce heat. So they get trapped within our atmosphere, and temperature slowly starts to rise. This melts these ice caps in our polar regions, and this is what causes the sea levels to rise. And this further exacerbates and increases the temperature. So this is what is known as the greenhouse effect, which can cause extreme weather, climate destabilization. And Gulf Islands, unfortunately, amongst a lot of other locations, have been hit by 4 major hurricanes in the past 20 years. There's Hurricane Ivan, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Dennis, and Hurricane Sally, all of which caused major damage to the beach dunes, which many animals use for protection and for breeding grounds. It infected infrastructure. The main road that runs to Fort Pickens and through the National Seashore was completely lost. And we also are affecting our cultural resources out there, like Fort Pickens that I just mentioned. So addressing the root cause of climate change, such as reducing these greenhouse gases and transitioning to renewable energy sources, is essential for protecting vulnerable areas like Gulf Islands National Seashore, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and mitigating the impact of climate change on communities and ecosystems worldwide. So additionally, adaptation measures such as restoring these natural coastal buffers like coastal dunes, which is what's happening here with all these bulldozers. They're helping to restore these coastal dunes that were lost during multiple hurricanes. Mangroves, which we've touched base on, they help protect against coastal erosion and help protect against extreme storms. And saving these coastal defenses and implementing sustainable land use planning are important ways to help coastal regions adapt to these changing environmental conditions, because they're only going to become more frequent in the future. This is our next case study, which is Biscayne National Park. And it's crucial to recognize the profound impact of climate change on our oceans. Our ocean's pH balance is changing, resulting in ocean acidification, which is a direct result of increased CO2 in our atmosphere, which is a little bit from the previous slide. So all of those greenhouse emissions, all of those gases, one of those is CO2. So here's a picture kind of showing what ocean acidification means. So as CO2 is released into the atmosphere and increases, that gas is pushing on the ocean surface and slowly getting absorbed by the ocean. When carbon dioxide and water mix, it creates an acid, carbonic acid. So this acid slowly starts to build up in our ocean, and that decreases the pH or makes it more acidic. And this has negative effects on our coral reefs, on different organisms. They can cause coral bleaching. The increased heat also causes thermal stresses to corals. You can have infectious disease outbreaks, and this like spiral out of control. So here is a picture of some coral bleaching event from a few summers ago. So this intricate interplay of ocean acidification, warming temperatures, sea level rise, and pollution all causes threats to our world. And urgent and concerted action is needed to mitigate climate change and to help reduce these local stressors, because it's imperative that we safeguard these ecosystems, because once they're gone forever. NPCA recently published an air and climate report. I believe Sam's going to send you all the link after this talk. But this report analyzed 399 national park sites. And we found, unfortunately, that most of our national parks suffer from significant or unsatisfactory levels of harm from air pollution. And there's this regional Hayes Rule, which is a program of the Clean Air Act. And this is one of our best tools to ensure clean air and clear skies for our parks and wilderness areas. So our findings underscore the urgent need to address air pollution in our national parks. And by prioritizing clean air, we can ensure that future generations can continue to enjoy these natural treasures for years to come. So I hope you guys take the time to look through the report. It has a lot of cool imagery and helps break down what's going on in our national parks. And I'd like you to know that NPCA is super excited to work with you all and provide you with resources to help empower you to use your voice and become an advocate for our world. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is advocacy. Advocacy involves actively supporting a cause, an idea, or a group of people. This includes speaking, writing, or acting in support of a particular cause. And the goal is to influence decisions, policies, or actions that can bring about positive change. Advocacy can take various forms, from raising awareness and education to lobbying for specific changes in laws and practices. It's a way for you to champion and support something that you believe in and work towards making a difference in our society or for a specific group or for a specific issue. And it can be anything. It can be there's a street lamp that has been out in your neighborhood for months and you think it's a safety issue. So advocacy can be talking to your local HOA and advocating for that light to be fixed. So it can take many different forms. There are many different ways to advocate. You can join organizations like Soul Margin, MPCA, different clubs at your school. You can volunteer, do coastal cleanups, remove these plastics that then create microplastics that then negatively affect animals in our oceans. You can speak out and engage with decision makers, talk to your local policymakers, talk to your local legislators. You can sponsor an event. You can network at different events like this one, like a webinar. You guys are meeting me, you're networking with me. You can help lead a campaign for maybe removing plastics or not having plastic bags in your community. You can learn more at Park Talks and register to vote and go out and vote. And if you're too young to vote, make sure that when you turn 18 that you register to vote and make sure that you go out, because that's really one of your most important ways to advocate, to make sure that we elect decision makers that are doing the things that we think are important and saving our world. So advocacy messages can take many different forms, including social media posts. So you don't need to go out and meet a legislator just yet. If you're not ready, you can share social media posts. You can create a blog post, a YouTube video, maybe write an article or a press release, ask to be interviewed for one of your local newspapers or magazines, attend meetings, or write letters to elected officials or other decision makers. And often when talking to legislators, you know way more than they do about a particular subject or issue. So don't ever feel intimidated by, talking to your mayor or your congressman. Oftentimes you are the most versed in that specific subject in the room, and they're going to ask you questions. But know that you don't need to have all the answers either. Just make your voice heard. So I do have a call to action on our website. We have an active call to action page where we highlight challenges and opportunities facing our national parks, where you can voice and advocate for particular park issues. The one that I'd like to highlight for you all, since we're talking about climate and air pollution, is this one towards the EPA and asking them to ensure all states are held accountable for reducing air pollution emissions within their boundaries. Sam is also going to share this action alert with you all, and I also have some links if you're interested in participating in other action alerts. So here on this action alert page, a letter is generated based on your zip code, and it's sent to your local legislators. So you're welcome to modify the letter in any way or send it as is, but it really highlights the issues around air pollution and that it's time for the EPA to set strong regional haze plans for every state. So one of the most basic forms of air pollution is haze, which is what's pictured here. On the left-hand side, you see a very clear image of the Grand Canyon, and to the right, you're seeing that air pollution or haze. It degrades the visibility of many American cities and scenic areas. Haze is caused when sunlight encounters tiny particles in the air, and this reduces the clarity and the color of what we see. So I hope you all take this opportunity to send in your letters requesting the EPA to take action. You can also find, like I said, many other action letters on our website to advocate for, like recovering the North Cascade grizzlies and requesting for the National Park Service to be fully supported and funded on deferred maintenance, because in some of our parks, we don't even have working bathrooms. And really by voicing your concerns, you can really push for some of these changes to happen. I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I also want to share some of our planet victories. Here we have a victory for clean air. So this past month, a deadline was placed for the EPA to address haze pollution in national parks across 33 states. But this isn't all of the United States. So we want them to continue to push for all of our states to have these specific haze pollution standards. So because of legal action taken by many different organizations like Earth Justice, the Environment Integrity Project, the Sierra Club, along with NPCA, we helped to prompt the EPA to take steps to combat haze, which has been taking place for over a decade. So this has been a very long plan, a long fight, and it's not over. But it's been mandated that the EPA needs to approve, deny, or partially approve state implementation plans by 2026. So we do have a set time frame as well, which is fantastic. We have another victory that just happened this month for marine reserve zones in Biscayne National Park. So the U.S. District Court ruled creating a mandate for the implementation of marine reserve zones in Biscayne National Park. So this victory was initiated by NPCA, and it aims to protect the delicate coral reef system from threats like overfishing, pollution, and climate change impacts. There were many years of delay by the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service, but this ruling emphasizes the urgent need to restore and preserve the marine biodiversity of Biscayne National Park, which is located in South Florida. And the fight to protect is not over. While you would think that no commercial fishing is allowed in national parks, it continues to occur in Biscayne. While commercial fishing should be phased out, the anticipated establishment of this no fishing marine area signifies a crucial step towards revitalizing the reef's iconic resources and ensures that it is sustainable for future generations. I'm sure many of you know the impacts of marine reserves on biodiversity, but I wanted to highlight some final points here and urge you to craft your own message for their importance. In a handout worksheet that will be provided to you after this presentation, there's a guide on how to craft your message, and it's titled Your Story, Your Act. So it helps you kind of come up with all of the different points that you should bring up when either doing an elevator pitch, meeting with a legislator, writing a letter, basically showing you all the points that you need to present to advocate for a particular act. And you can use this template to advocate on any topic. Like I said, before, to fix a broken street lamp in your neighborhood or for another local cause that's important to you. So it's a really nice breakdown. So to highlight marine reserves here, they have been scientifically proven, once established, that they will increase the abundance and diversity of marine life. To bring this back to climate change and the factors that are affecting wildlife, many coastal regions around the world are experiencing fish declines. And factors responsible for these declines could be environmental degradation, water pollution, climate change, and overfishing. And ways that we can combat further decline is through the creation of these marine reserves and providing a safe haven for these organisms. So in a paper published in The Science of Marine Reserves, it was shown that once established, the biomass or the mass of the animals and the plants were shown to increase by 446%. And a similar study in the dry tortugas also found similar increases. So once a marine reserve was established, you saw this huge increase in both animals and plants. The density or the number of plants and animals also increased by 166%. The body size of animals increased by 28%. Pictured here is a Florida lobster. Highly fish species showed greater increases as well in these marine reserves. And so why are marine zones and bigger fish so important? Well, first of all, it's awesome to observe a big fish out in the wild. But these larger fish also produce much more young than smaller ones. So they reproduce more, produce more eggs. They pass on their genes to future generations. Bigger fish is more likely to live, not get eaten by predators. They're more likely to get resources, so they're able to have children and produce more individuals. Having bigger fish also helps restore ecological balance within the reef environment. And only through your support of marine reserves, making sure you abide with these no fishing zones, and performing sustainable recreation practices will we prevail in the protection of our Florida waters and these marine resources. So with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn more, my email is here along with Sam, who's gonna send you guys an awesome email with all of the amazing things that I shared with you. If you're not signed up for NPCA email, you can sign up here. If you're interested in park talks, past park talks, current ones, and this is the link for active action alerts, where you can advocate for national park sites. So thank you all, and hopefully you guys have some questions for me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vanessa, for that. That's awesome. I'm sitting here taking notes. You answered some of the questions that I had, but also brought to my attention some things that I didn't think about, right? So before I go into the question, we did have some kids that said what the logo meant to them and what national parks meant to you. So I'm going to read some out, right? So they said that they are foreign. I'm sorry, foreign. That's funny. They are fun, the national parks, and also it makes them feel free. So it seems like they can run, enjoy that green space. That's very important, right? The other thing they did, I'm gonna say they said was the logo reminded them, I guess, of the St. Augustine Fort, is what I see. And then they also mentioned Yosemite, but the person said they've never been there.
Okay.
So
Cool. Cool.
that's what we have. So no questions
Those
have.
are all great responses. I also think national parks are super fun. In my free time, I'm I hope by the time I retire, I have visited all 63 national parks. I don't think I'll get to all 423 national park sites, but I could always hope for it. But they're definitely a free place to roam. I completely agree with you. Awesome places to explore, places that you might find niches that no one has seen in many many years, and these are safe havens for both plants and animals. So super cool place. And San
Definitely.
Augustine Fort is one of the national park sites.
Yeah, and Fort Matanzas is a great one too. Those two are great.
Yeah.
And then I found out at Fort Matanzas how small the Spaniards were because I'm not able to go to the top because of my shoulders, and that's really eye opening to realize how small those individuals were, right? Um, and the fact that in Florida we have 11 national parks, that's crazy. Most states
Yeah.
don't even have one, so that's the uniqueness of Florida again, where we are. All right. So we do have a question that came in, and they're asking, does climate change make earthquakes?
Does climate change make earthquakes? That is a good question. Um, I definitely we're seeing a lot of climate shifts, right? There's a lot of extreme climate that is occurring. Um, as for earthquakes, they might become more prevalent. We might see more like tsunamis and other types of issues as we move forward, because not only is our atmosphere being changed, right, due to a lot of these emissions, but also like the core of the Earth. I'm like diving back into like my geology, which has been
Awesome.
like a really long time ago. But I know there are effects to like the interior part of the Earth as well, and how that molten lava, that mantle, is being changed, can have effects like earthquakes.
Oh wow, that's really cool to know. We
Yeah.
have another one too, where they said you mentioned cars give off CO2, correct? And they said what other things cause climate change?
Um, so plastics, the use of plastics, and the creation of a lot of those like one use items, that production of all of uh, those types of items also emit more fossil fuels into the air. Factories um, that create cars and these different plastics, computers, those types of things. Those are all ways that we're affecting the climate.
Oh wow. Okay. Never thought about it. Just simple plastics that we use all the time that could cause those issues. Wow. And we have a lot of it. It's like plastics and everything, right? I was just talking to someone about just the cars and the price of cars, and it used to be, I think around what the '90s or early '80s, and before that was cars were made out of steel, right? They were
Mhm.
heavier. They were a lot heavier, but as technology advanced, aluminum came in there, then plastic came in there. It seems like all the cars now I see are pretty much made with plastic bumpers or something like that. So that's why you see so many bumpers just laying on the road. So then you get that emission that comes from there. So yeah, that makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense. Makes a
and
lot of
a lot
sense.
of our uh, we're we're a single use type of single use types of humans, like the clothes and stuff that we wear. Often we don't try to reuse or repurpose them or recycle, and a lot of our cities unfortunately are starting to not recycle, or
Wow. Yes.
which is causing this huge issue of moving this trash that isn't being recycled to other parts of the world, and then they're ending up in our ocean.
Right. Yeah, I heard of that during COVID. Some recycling stopped and some things like that, and that was very sad to see that happened. So we have another one. What career paths are available for those interested in addressing climate change?
There are so many different career paths, depending on what you're passionate about. You can study particular organisms and how they're being affected by climate. Like, let's say you're really interested in fish, or you're interested in deer. Or you're interested at like the microscopic level, maybe microorganisms like corals, for example. So you can study things from the microscopic level all the way up to the organism. You can go into school for sociology and talking to humans and trying to figure out how to you know uh, change their ideas and how to potentially advocate and help people understand and want to protect our national parks. You can do a job like me where you can be a public speaker and help host events and talk to many different individuals to help advocate. You can become a teacher. There's like so many different pathways. So you really need to find what you're passionate about and figure out how to follow that path. And that will lead you to help, protect our natural world. Really, if you find something that you're passionate about, everything else is going to fall into place.
That was perfectly answered, Dr. Vanessa. There's so I had a feeling this could come up, and when I talk to people about this subject, it's a certain word we don't say, right? But climate change is a better word to say it instead of the other word I won't say, right? So they asked the question of what would you say when I guess what would you say when you talk to someone about climate change and they say it's a hoax or it's not really occurring in spite of science and visual proof?
Yeah, definitely. You could just talk about people and their specific experiences, like if they are a fisherman,
Mm.
maybe when they started fishing 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were able to fish for bonefish, for example,
Yes.
that are they were a lot more prevalent in South Florida on the flats, and uh, they would see more, catch larger fish. And now, this time frame, we're not seeing as many bonefish. They're a lot smaller, and there's a lot fewer of them. So just going back to talking to individuals and their experiences, I think you can connect that change in climate, and you don't need to like make it this political thing. Same thing with like the heat. I've experienced this in my lifetime. Like it never used to be this hot this time of year. So just your own individual experiences, and we're seeing a lot more storms a lot more frequently, and I think just playing on those experiences and everybody and what they see happening in their lifetime.
Mm. Dr. Vanessa, that's another great answer. And that's the way I go at it too. I just talk about experience and I love how you talked about English, right? Because I hear the story from long captains that, has been guiding for a long time, talking about how amazing Biscayne Bay was, right? How big the bonefish were. This goes down to the keys. And they said exactly the same thing you said, right? Um, the other thing was we just talked, man, you just talked before the webinar started about in St. Augustine, there around Marineland used to be the place where the mangroves would be, right? We would say I would say that was the change of subtropical to tropical, right? The plants kind of tell you, right? I was in there fishing one day with a buddy, and we were poling off the flats and took a shortcut to get back to the intercoastal poling. And we saw a red and a white mangrove, and it blew our mind, right? And that was, oh my gosh, that's been about 5 years ago, a little bit longer. Now, mangroves are in North River, which is the Talamado River, north of the Bolano Bridge. If you're from St. Augustine, you know where that is. And this, what was that? 2 days ago, I was up at the Nassau Sound at the Saw Pit boat ramp, which is in Big Tabit Island. I walked and I took a right and I looked across the Spartina grass and I saw black mangroves growing and they were growing across the way and it just floored me. I'm like, you would never think a mangrove would even be this high. So again, these are experiences that I experienced, that other anglers experience. That's been a really huge talk around the town that's going with anglers of the Spartina grass is changing, or it's been overtaken by mangrove roots, right? Mangrove trees. So now, how do you adjust to it? How do you learn
Yeah.
these skills to adapt to that? And you have to adapt, right? You can't control it. You can't cut mangrove trees down. So that was awesome. You're right, experience. So we have another one. So what is your favorite animal or bird? This is
My
a good.
favorite animal or bird. I like that they knew that it was a bird. My favorite animals are owls. I
Oh,
love all raptors. I think they're all awesome. But specifically owls. I feel like it's such a like they're so quiet when they're like flying or just like in the trees and just seeing one looking at you is just like an amazing experience. I saw a barred owl for the first time at the Deering Estate while I was working there back in 2017, and it was so pretty and just awesome.
gotcha. That's awesome. That's a cool animal to like, right? I wish I could agree with you that they're quiet because in the summertime, believe it or not, when full moons come out or something like that, every owl in the square mile start just screeching all night long. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm thinking like they're having a party or attacking some animals, but they all come out. But it actually, I appreciate it, because it's really cool to know that they're there. Even though you can't see
Hmm.
them, it's really cool to know that they're there. And the raptors, they are amazing. I always say the osprey is the best fisherman out around the waters, around the ocean. Like just the things they can find. It doesn't matter if it's really wavy. It doesn't matter if it's storming. They're going to see a fish and they're going to go after it. And it's just amazing. And I just look at them as they fly by with fish and I'm like, it's amazing. the,
Yeah, and
the best
sometimes I've
fisherman out
seen them
there.
with like two fish and one in each
Yes.
claw. It's crazy. I'm like, how'd you catch both?
We've actually seen one with a flounder flying with a flounder across. I was like,
Wow.
what? Yeah. So
That's
they're really
awesome.
cool
Some
to
good
see
eating.
around
Some
there.
good eating.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I have a few notes. That's all the questions I see right now. But I have a few notes that I just want to bring to attention again that I agree with. And this was awesome to hear. So I never thought as a mangrove as a defense mechanism when it comes to storms. So that's really good hearing from like anglers when they're like, oh man, things are changing. But at the same time, it can protect our areas, right? Protect the estuaries will protect where we live. So that's really good to hear. The climate change effect on coral. Yes, we actually got to see some of that this year. Well, sorry, last year we went to the Keys in the fall, and it's a lot of researchers and scientists there were very nervous about that whole situation because of climate change. It's amazing to see that clarity picture that you showed too of the Grand Canyon. I never thought of that. I would think of it as, oh, it's just foggy today or something like that, but I never thought about that as climate change, right? Um, Biscayne Bay, yes, I heard about it, and it's good to see that your organization was able to get that pass to help out because there were guides down there that have been guiding for a long time. That's very very worried about the fishery, very worried about the permit, of course, the bone pit and different things like that too as well. Sorry about that. I don't. That's ringing. Excuse me. So then advocacy. You hit it correctly. Our organizations cannot do anything without the viewers, without common citizens advocating, writing, knocking on doors, sending emails to get that attention. Because if they don't do it, we don't get the attention. Our organizations don't get the attentions of the legislators and the rule changers or rule makers do that because like they say, like one is you could be powerful, but you're really powerful in numbers, right? And that is it's been proven many times. The
Yeah.
Marine
And
Reserve is really great.
legislators
Go ahead.
and
Go ahead.
legislators love talking to young kids.
They
They
do.
see how jazzed they are about a particular topic. So like it doesn't matter your age, like you can make like a huge difference.
That's awesome. So if you're your kids and you're watching, I know you're watching. Legislators love hearing your voice about conservation, about saving things, and your opinion. So it doesn't matter how big they are, like Dr. Vanessa said, go talk to them. All
Yeah.
right. And then the Marine Reserve, I love hearing about that too as well. Like more of those will be excellent and great. I understand, like as an angler or some commercial fisherman, that could be upsetting, but at the same time, we've seen it in places in the Keys, South Florida, when it's overfishing happens, there's nothing there for generation to come, or the fish get intelligent and they leave. They don't want to get caught the whole time, right? Just like us, they're in fight or flight mode, so they want to survive. And then
Yeah,
lastly,
and
go ahead, go ahead.
the thing about marine reserves is that they're like a set location, right? So if you have
Mhm.
really high number of fish in this marine reserve, they're still out. So eventually it gets too crowded for them and they start
Yes.
moving out. So then you can fish around those marine reserve areas and you can still catch. So it's not like you're helping to protect the resource and allowing them to reproduce so that they can populate other areas.
Yeah, and that's very important, right? And that falls into the next thing that I was going to talk about was you talk about big fish, right? So when you see charters or you see people go fishing, everybody wants to catch the big fish, right? And I understand that it makes good photos and different things like that, but at the same time, imagine if all the big fish are gone, there's no reproduction, right? Sometimes people take big fish, right? But those big fish can be mercury heavy just naturally, or it could be wormy naturally. So now you just pretty much didn't take good meat, but you also stop many generations of fish or reproduction that could happen. So that's one of the biggest things we do at Soul Margin Fishing and Conservation and Foundation is teach safe angling practice and importance of conservation. And I'm glad that you brought that up too as well. So this is awesome. This is like all the subjects that I can think about. I have to go back and rewatch this because you touched some awesome things, and so I'll probably watch about 4 to 5 times to continue learning. But this is amazing, and I really hope viewers that you got something out of this. If you have any more questions, please reach out to Dr. Vanessa. Again, we're sending an email that will have her contact information on there. Do advocacy work. She has call to action on there, and then just educate yourself more with the links that she gave us on climate change. You did an amazing job with those documentations, and I can't wait to share it out. So this ends our webinar. Dr. Vanessa, would you like to close out anything?
Thank you guys so much. Feel free to reach out to me, like Sam said, at any point in time. I'm happy to discuss. I'm happy to set up time. Come visit me at Fort Caroline this weekend for World Migratory Bird Day. I'll be there from 10 till 2. And check out our website for more events in the area. And I hope to go out with Sam and Soul Margin and do some of these coastal cleanups in the near future.
Oh, we will. And I'm gonna get her on the boat on the water, do some cool fishery stuff because she knows a lot about that too. So thank
Awesome.
you again for our sponsors. Thank you to our organization. Thank you for RMAC Media Group for putting this awesome webinar together. And we'll see you guys on the next webinar. Oh, I can't forget. We need your likes. We need your follow on Instagram and Facebook. We're trying to get 1,000 followers on Instagram so we can be able to spread our word a lot more with tools and stuff like that. And also make sure you follow National Parks Conservation Association. I'm sorry, yeah, association too as well. So we'll see you guys next time, and be safe.